This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. Here in Florida, we wrote the book on close elections. Yes, I'm talking about Bush versus Gore, and right now, at least Trump versus Clinton, too close to call, to say the least. So tonight, we look at voter fraud. Is it a real concern, as Donald Trump has suggested, or are new voter ID laws around the country designed specifically to suppress minority voters, as some suggest? From multiple layers of ID checks to private electronic systems for tallying ballots, those supervising elections take great care to make sure no one is able to mess around with the results. So, if our voting system is so secure, why do politicians like Donald Trump keep referring to it as rigged? We'll look at the facts coming up, but first, at the top, 7 stories at 7. Hurricane Hermine drenched the Suncoast with heavy rains, toppled trees, and flooded homes. Now Manatee County is teaming up with FEMA to assess the damage. Crews have been touring dozens of neighborhoods to determine whether there should be a presidential disaster. Overall, the county has completed more than 150 damage assessments and will be assessing storm damage throughout the week. FEMA says the biggest challenge the community has to face right now is patience as it completes its task.
And if our county commissioners would view the pictures that I have of people trying to go through 7.5 foot and 9 foot of water, I waded water to my chest to help people.
To receive the federal declaration, the state has to show it sustained a minimum of $25 million worth of damage. Manatee County itself has to show just under $1.3 million worth of damage. It could be getting a little bit louder in Manatee County. Commissioners are voting to update the noise ordinance. The revised ordinance now allows businesses to have higher noise levels later into the night. Prior to the decision, things had to quiet down by 10 p.m. That has now been extended to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and until midnight on Fridays and Saturdays.
We live in a beautiful environment. People love to sit out on the water and listen to music and have a cold drink when it's not quite so hot out, and they can enjoy it. So we want to make sure that we weren't stopping that from happening.
Venues going over the noise limit could still face a $100 fine. The sheriff's office will be responding to complaints on a basis. We're following new details tonight about a shooting incident at a home near Vano Drive in Sarasota County. According to a report from the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, deputies responded to an attempted break-in at the same home on August 31st. A young woman says she heard someone trying to get in, but deputies found no signs of activity. On Tuesday, 31-year-old James Sasser was found dead in the doorway of the home. A neighbor says he is desperate to learn about the circumstances surrounding the death.
I would definitely like to know more information. It definitely helps. I've got a family. We live, a couple roads over, so knowing if we're in any danger, that would be great.
The sheriff's office says there are no threats to the public at this time. They have not yet ruled the incident as a homicide yet. Commissioners in Holmes Beach are moving forward with a moratorium on chain stores. The moratorium would stop permits for new retail establishments within city limits from being processed for 8 months. The decision comes after plans for a new Baskin-Robbins and Dunkin' Donuts received heavy criticism and concern from local residents and business owners. Note, when building a new major construction project, it is important not to hold the directions upside down. That's what happened in Venice, where a solar energy project may have to be rebuilt after the contractor built a parking canopy in the wrong place. It turns out that a contractor for Florida Power and Light misread the plans for the project. During a city council meeting yesterday, FPL took responsibility for the mistake, agreeing to do whatever is necessary to fix the problem. But according to one city engineer, that could mean starting from scratch.
It cannot be relocated because the structural condition of the supports would be modified, and it just wouldn't be feasible to move it. So they'll have to basically start from scratch. They'll have to restore the site where they placed this one, and the estimate for that is $160,000.
The city engineer believes the only way this could have happened is if the site surveyor read the plans upside down. The city of Venice is approving its first tax increase in more than a decade. The city council voted last night to increase the millage rate by 0.5%. Homeowners will now have to pay $50 more per $100,000 of their home's value. The increase will bring in about $1.6 million more for the city. Council members say they felt compelled to increase the tax to fix what they call an unstable budget. Tropical storm Julia is battering South Carolina tonight and after developing over land. Yesterday, the storm brought heavy winds and rains to Florida's northeast coast. Electric crews worked overnight to do repairs. Julia is unique because tropical cyclones do not typically become named while over land. Bob, that's very unusual.
Yeah, it is, because the warm water actually drives these storms and causes them to develop. And this was close enough, though, to the water that it drew it in from the Gulf Stream there along the east coast of Florida. By the way, this is the first time ever a named storm has developed over land in Florida. So it's a first for that as well. And another thing to note is that this storm developed from having no chance of developing yesterday morning at the 8 o'clock advisory to a tropical storm in less than 12 hours. So it shows you these things can pop up pretty quickly without warning at times, and this one did so. It is still causing some problems, not wind, but rain into the Carolina coast. You can see from the color-enhanced satellite imagery, there's quite a bit of convection developing, mainly east of the center. In fact, there appears to be more just off the coast of Cape Canaveral this evening. A little line of low pressure has developed. Here's a look at the latest on it. It's moving to the northeast at 6. The top winds are at 40, and the pressure at 1,011 millibars. Look at the forecast 5-day track. It goes to the east, and then it goes to the west, and not very far. In fact, look at that cone of uncertainty is really a circle of uncertainty. It can be anywhere within inside this cone in 5 days from now. So it could be actually down here, or it could be up here, all the way over here. Either way, we'll keep an eye on it for you. It's not going to be doing much for our weather at all over the course of the next several days. What we are seeing, though, is a line of low pressure, if you will, and this line of low pressure kind of feeding into the system, and that has brought some showers our way today. All the rainfall, though, has been rather scattered. There's still quite a few showers off into the Gulf of Mexico. Not much going on over land. One lone shower just north of Teresilla. You can see it pushing off to the northeast. Heavier showers north of Hillsborough. There's that one lone shower approaching the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. Currently, it's 85. We have some high clouds around. The dew point 75. Winds out of the southwest at 7. And get a look at this. We'll talk more about this a little bit later in the newscast here, but there are 4 separate areas we're watching. You can tell this is pretty close to the peak of hurricane season. Carl is the next named storm to arrive, and it looks like it'll be out there in the Atlantic. We'll talk more about that in a bit.
It's getting busy out there.
Yes, it is.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, some candidates calling our election system rigged, but is voter fraud really an issue? We'll hear what our local supervisors of elections are doing to protect the vote when we come back.
At SWC Properties, we pride ourselves in providing to you the very best in customer satisfaction, and the secret's getting out. Maybe that's why so many people have chosen to list their homes with our friendly and qualified agents. After all, it only makes sense to list with a growing agency that markets in so many places. To list your home with SWC, give us a call at our Bradenton office and ask for Eric Schrock.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
Using baby powder or talc may lead to ovarian cancer. $72 million was awarded in a recent talc lawsuit after lawyers found secret internal documents showing that the baby powder manufacturer knew about the link between talcum powder and ovarian cancer for decades, but never told the public. If you were diagnosed with ovarian cancer after using talcum powder on a regular basis, you may qualify for a cash award. Call 800-793-6621. 800-793-6621.
Attention, this is an important message for anyone who had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to their heart or lungs. Did your IVC filter move, break, or cause organ damage? The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, even death. If you or a loved one suffered serious complications, call IVC Filter Helpline now. you may be entitled to compensation. IVC filters are designed to prevent blood clots. If your IVC filter moved or broke and you suffered heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, or if a loved one died as a result, call IVC Filter Helpline today. Our network of experienced attorneys is ready to fight for you. You'll pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. Call today for a free confidential consultation. Don't fight this alone. Call IVC Filter Helpline now.
Please call 800-897-6764. That is 800-897-6764.
You only have one life. Are you gambling with it? 1 in 3 adults have high blood pressure. Not knowing your numbers could cause you to lose, big time. Luckily, you can turn the odds in your favor by getting your blood pressure checked today. Don't leave your health to chance. Learn more at heart.org/HPB.
Voter fraud. Is it a real concern, or is it a real red herring to rationalize voter ID laws, which many believe could suppress minority and mostly Democratic votes? ABC7's Dwayne Lindo joins us with more. Dwayne.
Well, Alan, November elections are less than 2 months away. And as these voter ID laws may not swing the election one way or another, some say they would have a significant impact on Democratic-leaning regions.
Thank you, everybody. This is some crowd of people. Wow.
First, he said the Republican primaries were rigged. That was until he won them. Now Donald Trump has a new refrain. The election itself could be rigged.
We will never fix our rigged system by relying on the people who rigged it in the first place, and that's what you're doing.
Trump has suggested if he loses Pennsylvania, it would only be because of fraud, a suggestion New College's political science professor Keith Fitzgerald says is ridiculous.
As far as the legitimacy of the votes themselves, there is almost no voter fraud in the United States. It's just not a problem.
Fitzgerald says changing the outcome of an election is highly unlikely.
Where you absolutely don't see a problem is with people coming up to vote and trying to pretend that they're somebody they're not. It's just way too much trouble for the value of it, because you'd have to do it on a big scale to get anywhere, and it's really difficult to do.
With over 12 million registered voters in the state of Florida, Ron Turner of the Sarasota Supervisor of Elections Office points out the state's voting system, for one, has integrity and is carefully monitored.
When you go to the polls in Florida, there are about a dozen different types of photo signature IDs that voters use. So we verify those the poll workers do or our election personnel do when individuals go to vote.
But some say voter fraud is real and has happened on numerous occasions around the country throughout the past decade.
You know, Acorn had, what, they have 18 or 20 convictions on voter fraud in multiple states, and those are the ones that we know of and that were convicted. They had tens of thousands of voters that they registered that were thrown out.
Sarasota Republican Club President Rod Thompson says if we ignore it, we leave our ballot boxes open to those who are trying to steal elections.
If there was one illegal vote, it could cancel out mine, right? If there's one voter fraud, then it cancels out mine, then my vote really actually didn't count. I think our goal should always be zero. You know, zero voter fraud. We live in the real world, but there's nothing wrong with making that the ideal.
2 months ago, a federal court decided North Carolina law intentionally discriminated against minority voters and ordered the state to make voter ID requirements less strict. But Thompson says the idea of making voter IDs less strict is not ideal.
We need a voter ID for everything under the sun. If you want to buy alcohol, if you want to get on a plane, if you want to rent a house, you need to prove who we are. Why would we have a different standard at the voting place? Why is that voter suppression? Why is that voter disenfranchisement?
Fitzgerald says not so fast. He says many of these new voting laws are put in place to shape the electorate to their advantage.
So they engage in gerrymandering. We should be concerned about that. They will try to put in phony barriers to solve non-existent problems by making it hard for some people to register.
Now, new voting restriction laws were not only struck down in North Carolina, but Texas, Wisconsin, and Kansas as well.
Right, Dwayne, thank you. And we'll have more with our reality of voter fraud with our roundtable. Stay with us.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who are disabled and unable to work, I have an important message. You may be entitled to receive disability benefits through Social Security. You'll be matched up with an advocate who will evaluate your situation, handle your application, deal with Social Security for you, and handle all appeals and hearings. Best of all, there are no upfront fees, so you pay nothing until you receive your benefits. Call the Citizens Disability Helpline today for a free, no-obligation consultation.
Attention breast cancer survivors. If you experience permanent hair loss or baldness after chemotherapy, you may qualify for a cash award. Thousands of women suffering breast cancer were given a chemotherapy drug without being warned about the possibility of irreversible alopecia. If you or a loved one suffered permanent hair loss after chemotherapy, call 888-622-8732. Time to file a claim is limited. 888-622-8732. That's 888-622-8732.
This is a special health alert for seniors suffering with joint pain. If you have Medicare insurance, you may qualify for high-quality support braces at little or no cost.
I'm thrilled with my knee braces.
Now, there is a simple and proven solution for seniors to get out of pain with state-of-the-art support braces.
I barely feel any pain at all.
Braces for your knees and back, as well as your shoulders and ankles, too.
I'm so happy with the quality of these braces.
Call now, and you could qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
I can play ball again, and it doesn't hurt.
And because of my Medicare coverage, it costs me next to nothing.
So call now.
And because I have this red, white, and blue Medicare card, my braces have cost me just about nothing.
It's true. You may get a knee, back, shoulder, and ankle brace at little or no cost.
They qualified me for 2 knee braces and a back brace.
If you have knee or back pain, give them a call. They can help.
1-800-476-8967. 1-800-476-8967.
Batteries Plus bulbs keep stacks of batteries for cars, cell phones, watches, plus light bulbs for lamps, can lights, and appliances right on hand. Did I mention we also repair smartphones? Batteries Plus bulbs. Trust the plus. Visit Batteries Plus bulbs today.
Joining us for more on preventing voter fraud is Susan Nylon. She is covering the election season locally for the Associated Press. Rod Thompson, president of the Sarasota County Republican Club, and Wendy March, a veteran political reporter here in Florida. So what are we to make of this? I mean, I saw your comments in Dwayne's story about Acorn. That was a significant issue a couple of years ago. The question is, how prevalent is it nationally? Wendy?
Well, what Acorn was doing was voter registration, or what they did wrong was voter registration fraud. One thing that a lot of people don't understand about the Acorn case is that these people were getting voter registration applications that they knew were false, but they're required by law to turn them in. They're not allowed to make their own judgment as to whether the application's false. At around the same time, the Republican Party hired a contracted private company to do voter registration, and their registrars falsified registrations for money because they were paid piecework. They were paid by the registration. But the laws that we're talking about wouldn't do anything about any of this. The laws that we're talking about are aimed at voter impersonation fraud, which is virtually non-existent.
Well, the Acorn problem was real and intentional, and it was criminal. That's why 18 of them were convicted or pled guilty. This wasn't something like, oh, we got some innocently here and we have to hand them over. They were intentionally trying to defraud the voting process.
But again, we were talking about voter registration and not what happens on election day.
Right, so there's a number of steps that happen for an election to take place. It seems to me that fraud in any one of those steps would be a serious problem that we'd need to address.
Susan?
Well, I would say, though, those problems are addressed at the level of the supervisor of elections. Yes, people can falsify information on a voter registration, but it does go through a checks and balances process at the supervisor elections, and chances are it gets kicked back. It's not, and I agree with Wendy, one has nothing to do with the other.
So when we're talking about what happens on election day, we say, we see the reporting that says it's rare, but does it happen?
I guess my question would be, and when I was talking to Dwayne about it, my question was, I'm not sure we have a good handle on that. It doesn't look like it happens in high numbers, but when you look at what was being done with Acorn, when you look at the 4 Democrats that were convicted in Troy, New York, when you look at the Department of Investigations investigators in New York, that 63 out of 67 precincts, they were able to just vote under dead people and felons' names. When you look at all those sorts of things, you begin to wonder, all right, how much fraud might go on that goes on undetected that we don't know about. Perhaps, and Florida has very good laws, so perhaps most of them are caught in Florida. I'd be less confident around the country about that.
I think the answer to that is almost none, and there's a good reason for it. If you go to the poll and pretend to be somebody else and try to vote, you're subjecting yourself to a possible 5-year sentence and a $10,000 fine.
Okay,
it's just not worth it.
We are dipping our toes into this, and when we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be switching political gears just for a moment because we had an exclusive interview today with the Republican vice presidential nominee, Mike Pence. Our interview when we come back.
Thanks to my volunteer, I am a better reader.
Thanks to my volunteer, math seems simple now.
Thanks to my volunteer, I discovered new career goals.
I'm a volunteer for Sarasota County Schools, so I know I can make a difference. And you can too. Give an hour, change a life.
It's time to upgrade your favorite news app. Now, ABC7's My Suncoast News app is better than ever with a dynamic brand new design that's faster and easier to use. Stay connected with new features that make it easy to submit photos, share stories on Facebook and Twitter, and save stories for reading at a later time. Download our free My Suncoast News app on your mobile device at your app store. ABC7's all-new My Suncoast News app. Just another way we're here for you. Powered by the iAssociates, providing sight for life.
When you have credit card debt, the debt suckers, high rate and high pay, never leave you alone.
Debt is really sucking the life out of them. He's picking up the phone.
Oh, no, not consolidated credit.
With one call, they can lower their credit card rates.
And consolidate their bills into one low payment.
They'll pay off their debt in no time.
Call Consolidated Credit now.
Because debt sucks.
Call 800-201-0230. That's 800-201-0230. Call now.
I'm your spokesperson. This is an important message for anyone who took the prescription drug Xarelto or Pradaxa and had a serious bleeding event. If you or a loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered from a serious bleeding event,
call 800-220-8268 immediately.
Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to serious internal bleeding, stroke, and death.
Call 800-220-8268 immediately.
You may be entitled to compensation. Call now for a free consultation.
Welcome to the all-new Seymour Buick GMC on the island of Venice.
Seymour smiles.
Seymour quality selection of new and pre-owned vehicles.
Seymour for your trade.
Seymour Savings.
It's the Buick 2016 model year sell down. Now get 20% below MSRP on select Encore models in stock. That's nearly $5,000 below MSRP on the 2016 Buick Encore.
Seymour now at Seymour Buick GMC on the island of Venice. Go to SeymourBuickGMC.com.
Tonight, an exclusive interview here on the Suncoast with the Republican vice presidential nominee, Mike Pence. So much going on the presidential campaign trail. Donald Trump on Dr. Oz. Hillary Clinton says her doctor says she is okay. Newsweek on Donald Trump's complicated foreign business ties. And then there is Colin Powell's hacked emails. We had the chance to speak to the Indiana governor live on our 5:30 broadcast. Take a look.
With both presidential nominees under the spotlight for their foundations and their health.
ABC7's Alan Cohn joins us now with the latest developments. Alan?
Scott and Haley, there is so much to talk about, and tonight we are going to talk about it with Republican nominee for Vice President, Governor Mike Pence. Joins us from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Governor, thanks for joining us. And let's start with some of the comments.
Alan, good to be with you.
It's good to see you too, sir. Let's start with some of the comments of Colin Powell, who in those hacked emails that were just released, he took a lot of shots at Secretary Clinton, but he also took some at Donald Trump. He called him a national disgrace, and he said when it comes to the birther movement with Mr. Trump champion for a while, Colin Powell said the whole birther movement was racist. Governor, do you think it was racist?
Well, I think those are all the issues of the past. What we're talking about in Scranton today, as the crowd is gathering here tonight, what Donald Trump talked about in Michigan and will be in Ohio tonight is really the future. We're talking about the future of this country, talking about rebuilding American strength at home and abroad. I certainly have great respect for Secretary Powell, and I know those emails came out today, and he expressed frustration with Hillary Clinton as well. But I really do think that the reason why we're doing well in Florida through new polls today, the reason why we're getting real momentum all across the country is because Donald Trump's message to make America great again, to rebuild our military, rebuild our economy, end illegal immigration, hold up the Constitution and appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States, and uphold the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land. Those messages are resonating with people all across Florida and all across the United States.
But Mr. Trump was again today at an African American church. He is reaching out to the African American community, but there are so many people saying what is hurting him there was the birther movement.
Honestly, I've been so moved by the response that we've gotten from the African American community, from many in the Hispanic and Latino community. I mean, when Donald Trump talks about making America great again, we're committed to that message of growth and prosperity and a stronger America for everyone in this country, regardless of race or creed or color. I think his remarks and his presence today gives evidence to that he wants to be president of all the people of the United States. And look, those are issues of the past. Donald Trump and I both accept that the president was born in the United States of America. Questions were raised in prior campaigns over the last 4 and 8 years by various sources, and they've all been answered. But I really do believe that where the American people are focused today is on the future. And the reason why you see the tremendous momentum in this campaign is because Donald Trump is talking about the issues that people care about, not the issues of the past, but the issues about their future. And that's why we see such tremendous progress in the polls, and why we're seeing a great crowd gather here in Scranton, Pennsylvania tonight.
Let me ask you about one more issue of the president, and that is the tax returns. You released your tax returns. Donald Trump has not. And Newsweek reported today, quote, "A close examination by Newsweek of the Trump Organization reveals an enterprise with deep ties to global financiers, foreign politicians, and even criminals. It also reveals a web of contractual engagements or entanglements that could not be canceled if Trump moves into the White House." Isn't this why we need to look at Mr. Trump's tax returns?
Well, as you know, Donald Trump and I both have fully complied with federal law concerning disclosures. Donald Trump has released more than 100 pages of information about his financial dealings, and he'll release those tax returns as soon as that routine audit is completed, and the American people have access to that, as they do with my tax returns already. But look, that piece in Newsweek is just the latest example of the kind of hit journalism that, frankly, we're seeing from the national media often in this campaign. But the reason why people are drawn to Donald Trump is because they see in his life and in his career a man who has built a great business in this country, built a great name, and they know he's going to make a great president of the United States as he brings that practical business experience into the Oval Office.
All right, Governor Mike Pence, thanks for joining us. Good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you, Alan.
And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on voter fraud with our roundtable, so stay with us.
A message from the Pulaski Law Firm. For decades, many Americans working in the trades were exposed to environmental hazards without their knowledge. While the dangers of one such airborne threat, asbestos, have long been known, efforts were made to hide the risks from the public. The result? Thousands of cases